California, at least 13 people were arrested as hundreds blocked traffic on 2 major highways, waving Mexican flags and burning a giant effigy of Donald Trump. Police fired rubber bullets, and pepper spray at hundreds of protesters after the crowds took over major intersections.
Load up, load up, load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
Fraud, homophobia, sexual assault, white supremacy.
In terms of reaching out and being inclusive, he's done that too. And a will to risk to make things better, and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities.
White privilege!
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
Here in New York, as many as 10,000 people surged through the streets and surrounded the barricaded-off Trump Tower where Donald Trump lives.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
We reject the president-elect. Load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
I think it speaks to the disenfranchisement of the people that someone like him could be seen as offering anything to the masses.
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Little snowflake falling from the sky.
What about gay people? Trump has vowed to protect the LGBT community from a fanatical ideology that represents its biggest threat, radical Islam.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology.
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
He is a racist.
Under Obama, more black people are living below the poverty line. The number of African Americans on food stamps has increased 58% under Obama.
On every leading economic issue, on the major economic issues, black Americans have lost ground in every one of those leading categories. So for the last 10 years, it's not been good for black folks.
Is this how the left helps black communities? By making them poorer and more dependent on government. Race relations are at their worst in decades. 8 years of Obama has been devastating for the black community.
He is a sexist. He is a neo-Nazi.
Well, we don't understand why you called in the National Guard.
Falling on my nose.
Not my president. He is a lying ass.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake,
Fake ass.
little snowflake falling from the sky.
Dumb ass son of a bitch.
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake falling, 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 falling.
That's not my president. That's not my president.
Load up, we rubber bullets.
Falling in my hand.
Thank you for taking America back 60 years of progress.
Falling on my head.
You just voted in a Nazi fascist.
Falling on my nose. Falling in my hand. Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do?
The following is a Nightside Radio Studios production. From the wind-powered Nightside Radio Studios,
tear down this wall.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
It's this man. It's the compassion. It's the dignity. It's the wisdom. It's the horse sense of the guy.
Did you know that 65% of the people murdered in the last 10 years were killed by handguns?
Would it make you feel any better, little girl, if they was pushed out of windows?
The American people have seen the truth, and they can see through your lies. There's coming a day when publications such as yours turn into nothing more than flea market advertising. They'll be handing it out for free in grocery store parking lots under everybody's windshield wiper. Yeah, that's the future for the Washington Post and the New York Times and every other liberal publication in this country. We are not going to tolerate your bull anymore. None of it. The American people are fed up. I thought we made that clear on November 8th, but apparently you people in the media just don't get it. A new chapter in American history begins now.
It is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
We are a team.
They said it couldn't be done.
Together, we will lead our party back to the White House.
He said it must be done.
Beginning on January 20th, we cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, thank you, Marcus. And hello, everybody. Hello, welcome. Welcome to Friday. Ah, yes, TGI Friday. This is going to be a great show. We have the mysterious Colonel with us. And we got a lot more. Folks, today, the themes that we started earlier this week have all been leading to a crescendo. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try not to shout, but we are certainly going to share with you, and maybe even an I told you so or two coming up today. The mysterious Colonel is with us. Hello, mysterious Colonel. How are you?
I'm doing well, JJ. Happy Friday. I'm extremely excited today.
Why?
Well, I've got good authority that on February 23rd, between I think 3 and 5 p.m., Publishers Clearinghouse will be coming with balloons to my house.
Oh, yeah.
Because I look like the winner, according to what they've been mailing me. So
wow.
I'm all excited.
Boy, you really had me going there. You really did. I thought what's going to happen between 3 and 5 p.m. on the 23rd of February? And then
they'll bring the balloons, and I'll be on the J.J. McCartney Show, and you can see me, or actually hear me, shout my victory, and then give my victory speech of having won the Publishers Clearinghouse.
And, of course, I know a guy like you.
I'll be on the show with you.
I know a guy like you. You'll share the wealth. It's not because anybody told you to, but because you're such a magnanimous guy.
Well, I don't know what that word means, but I certainly am wealthy, and I don't mind not only sharing the wealth, but wealth to sharing. So, yes, absolutely. Good Lord.
I got to tell you, folks, you folks out there listening at Red State Talk Radio, jjmccartney.com, YouTube, wherever you might be, you just don't understand what a privilege it is to have the mysterious Colonel with us.
Well, thank you, JJ.
Long-time military instructor at West Point. Now, the reason they made him an instructor at West Point is because they didn't want to put him in the field.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Keep him away from
That's
everybody.
Right.
Exactly. That's right. Keep him in the rear. That's right.
Now, I do want to mention a couple of things. First of all, we've been talking all week about the systemic persecution of Christianity in the United States. Here's another example of it, but I got to tell you, I believe that all of these cases are going to go to the Supreme Court, and I believe the Supreme Court is going to reverse decisions made by judges in places like that tutti frutti Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Judges at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals have backed a school's hostility to prayer. Now, lest anybody think that this couldn't happen in your backyard, Joe Kennedy,
That's right.
Joe Kennedy, football coach at Bremerton High School in the state of Washington. And if you've ever been to Bremerton, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the Pacific Northwest. It's gorgeous. It's right across the Sound from Seattle itself. The high school is remaining quite hostile about the idea of the football team having a prayer before the game. The judges of the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the most overturned appeals court in the country, yesterday sided with a school district's hostile manner toward the post-game prayers of a football coach. A 3-judge panel in the Ninth Circuit has ruled in this case that Coach Joe Kennedy, when he kneeled and prayed on the 50-yard line immediately after games, while in view of students and parents, he spoke as a public employee, they said, not as a private citizen. Boy, isn't that splitting hairs?
Yeah, exactly.
It is. By the way, his speech, therefore, they say, was constitutionally unprotected. Now, I happen to believe that there's no such thing as constitutionally unprotected free speech.
Yep.
The verdict came in. The coach's lawsuit against the school over First Amendment violations after officials fired him for his prayers. Now,
of course,
wait till this goes to the Supreme Court, folks. Wait till this goes to the Supreme Court. I believe that this is going to be a landmark decision, and that the Supreme Court is going to say, first of all, give him back his job, you stupid asswipes. Secondly, it's absolutely protected free speech. The idea that a state or local government has the right or assumes the right to restrict someone's free speech and to fire them for their free speech. I mean, the First Amendment is very plainly worded. Is it not, Colonel?
No, it is. And you know what, JJ? Rather than just giving him his job, there's got to be some other stiffer penalty as an incentive for this nonsense to stop all the time. If it doesn't fit this liberal, left-wing, frickin' unbelievable agenda that I'm getting sick and tired of. These people are out of control with this nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe they need to fine the school for a frivolous, denial of rights. Hey, why doesn't that? Speaking of that, why doesn't that fall under a civil rights violation? Because if the First Amendment is quite clear, and it's upheld, and it's not going to be changed, and if somebody denies you of your constitutional rights, how come that's not a civil rights violation?
Yeah.
And why can't that school be sued to the nth degree?
Right.
And maybe some of the people that brought the lawsuit against them be sued personally.
Yep. Well,
I'm sick and tired of this nonsense.
Well, here's the thing: the lawsuit is actually filed by the coach. He has filed the lawsuit against the school district because of the just a very simple fact that this is a violation of the First Amendment. And, the attorneys, one of the attorneys, his name is Hiram Sasser. He is with First Liberty, that's representing Joe Kennedy, the coach. And he said the school is acting in a hostile manner toward Christianity, sending the message to all people of faith that they are not welcome. He said it is disappointing that the Ninth Circuit, would refuse to hear Coach Kennedy's case, especially in light of the extreme, far-reaching opinion issued by the 3-judge panel. It was, if this decision is allowed to stand, Jewish teachers can be fired for wearing a yarmulke in sight of students. Catholic teachers are at risk if they wear a crucifix. Muslim teachers may face discrimination for wearing a hijab. I mean, the earlier decision was that the Bremerton, Washington School District was allowed to fire Kennedy over his prayers. Kelly Shackelford is the chief of First Liberty, representing Coach Kennedy, said banning all coaches from praying just because they can be seen is wrong and contradicts the Constitution. We will keep fighting on behalf of Coach Kennedy until the religious liberties are fully restored, including appealing this case to the Supreme Court of the United States. I think that's where it's headed. I think that's where it needs to head. And, I believe that even the leftist justices of the Supreme Court cannot deny that firing a coach for praying is a clear violation not only of the First Amendment, but the 14th Amendment, which gives all citizens equal protection under the law. How many times have we seen schools set up and accommodate special rooms where Muslims can wash their feet and pray? And they're not willing to allow a coach who is an individual. And, yes, he's there on behalf of the school, but does that negate his right of free speech? I don't think so.
Right.
And what about the rights of the football players? Don't they have a right to pray as well?
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. So
I tell you, I don't understand why he would still want to work at that school, but I got to get. I guess you have to enact your justice first, and then move on. But these states like that, in California wants to. The Attorney General has vowed to prosecute anybody who cooperates with the federal government on that. I mean, this is a country out of control.
It is really. It's time for the federal authorities to start arresting leaders that are defying federal law. And it's it's high time that Jerry Brown needs to be arrested, for Christ's sake.
You better believe it. I just saw where this knucklehead, unfortunately, my governor, who I certainly didn't elect, I don't know who did, he's now jumping on the bandwagon with Connecticut and some other state, probably New Jersey, to defy the federal government regarding all this stock. It's just absolutely incredible. And, that's all well and good, but as soon as you start taking care of, the homeless in New York City and all the other issues of crime and everything else the state
exactly
faces,
right.
then I'll say, okay, then you can go and play that game. But until you clean up all these other issues and problems and the tax that's out of control. He's blaming the federal government now. He's blaming Trump for this the tax and how it's going to hurt New Yorkers. It's just amazing. And for all the problems that we have, this is what they're going to jump on and defy the federal government. You're right. Start jailing these people. Let's put them in jail for defying the federal government.
And here's another excellent point. An excellent point made by, let's see. I believe it was one of Kennedy's lawyers, another one of his lawyers said this, said, if the Constitution protects the right of a football coach to kneel in protest, then it should certainly protect the right of a football coach to kneel in prayer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This suspension announced by Superintendent Aaron Leval shortly after during the 2015 football season. After that was done, he was fired. He was suspended, then he was fired. In an appearance on Fox News, Coach Kennedy described his reasons for praying. He says, it's something that I kind of made an agreement with my personal faith in God, that this is something I was going to do, give him the glory after every single game. and do it on the 50-yard line. And I'm kind of a guy of my word. So, as WorldNet Daily reported, he said he prayed both before and after games for years for the safety of all of the players. Often players on both teams would join him on the field to bow their heads. Donald Trump, then the Republican presidential candidate, mentioned Kennedy's outrageous plight while speaking about religious liberty during the retired American Warriors PAC gathering in Herndon, Virginia. He says, the other day, just to add to your list, I was watching one of the news programs and they had I think, high school football coach. You know, they're getting into battle. Audience members then interrupted Trump saying, he's here, referring to the coach. So Trump, who had said he had no idea that Kennedy was in attendance, then asked the former Marine Corps gunnery sergeant to stand. So you're not allowed to pray before a football game, Trump asked. They put me on suspension, said the coach, and then at the end of the year, they gave me an adverse write-up on how I did my job. I didn't change anything for 8 years, Kennedy told Trump in front of the crowd. Always prayed after every game, and they just really slapped me on it, said what a horrible person I was, ended up just not renewing my contract, so ultimately firing me. Trump responded that Kennedy's termination was absolutely outrageous. He said, I think it's outrageous. I think it's very, very sad, outrageous. Hey, it's about religious liberty. Public figures such as evangelist Franklin Graham and former National Football League stars Steve Largent and Chad Henning have supported Kennedy as well. Honestly, if you are a citizen, doesn't matter whether you're left or right, Republican or Democrat, if you allow them to take away the rights of this man today, then who's going to be there to stand up for you when they take away some rights of yours tomorrow?
Yep, exactly.
This is absolutely outrageous. And as I've said, this systemic persecution of Christianity in America, it flies in the face of our Constitution, and it flies in the face of civility, society. Yeah. If you're going to have a civil society, then people have to be able to agree to disagree without trying to go on some personal crusade to wipe somebody out. I mean, not only do you fire the guy, but the kind of write-up they gave him, I mean, he was going to have a hard time finding work. It's not enough that they wanted to humiliate him. They wanted to take away his livelihood. And I think that his lawyers, once they get to the Supreme Court, should ask for a huge monetary judgment against the school district because, A, what they did was unconstitutional, and B, it was vindictive.
Yeah, I'm telling you, JJ, bankrupt that school. Bankrupt that school district.
Yes.
Bankrupt the state. Bankrupt everybody with the amount of that lawsuit. I have no problem with that. There's got to be some sort of incentive, or deterrent from this happening continually, where they, like you said, it's not enough to just fire the guy, but they're destroying his livelihood and his ability to move on somewhere else. And for that, these people have to be punished, and punished severely. Because if they don't do that, it's open season like it is already on just about everything that doesn't fit into the left's narrative.
Right.
But there's got to be some sort of deterrent. Otherwise, we're going to be so far out of control. I'm surprised we're not in the streets yet, but, thankfully we're not.
Well, a mysterious colonel, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the story. I mean, this is really unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes when I read this. I mean, I don't know how I didn't see this earlier. But apparently, a Muslim who shot a Philadelphia police officer 13 times, apparently it was premeditated.
No,
Yeah,
no way. I find that
kid
so
you
hard
not.
to believe. How can that be?
It was not a random
Oh, my
act.
God.
It's amazing. We'll be back. We'll talk about that, plus so much more with the mysterious Colonel. You know, if you want to jump into the conversation today, folks, we'd be glad to have you. The toll-free number is 855-853-5227. That's 855-853-5227. We got much, much more to come on the TGI Friday edition, the Friday extravaganza. To JJMcCartney.com and Red State Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney back here for our good friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. You know, folks, there's one thing that there never seems to be a shortage of in this world, and that is uncertainty, unrest. You know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Natural disasters, economic downturns, whatever it is, you can be prepared by going to MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. They have got everything you need, from ProPure gravity-fed water filtration systems to Kimberly stoves to these composting toilets. Ladies and gentlemen, at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com, you can prepare for anything. Food storage? No problem. Advice? No problem. Call our good friend Sue at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Find out what's there for you. Great prices, great advice, and guess what, folks? You'll find it all at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Under my plan, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
Americans like to drive their big SUVs. They like to leave all the lights on in their house. We're going to have to change our habits. We're going to have to change our light bulbs. We're going to have to shut the lights off in our houses.
America is no longer what it once was.
If they make a mistake, I don't want them punished with a baby.
The Cambridge police acted stupidly.
You need to make sure your child can speak Spanish.
They potentially had the best answers, so I know whose ass to kick.
We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Whether we like it or not, we remain a dominant military superpower.
Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union.
There have been times where America's shown arrogance and been dismissive.
Reverend Wright,
Who was my pastor.
No, not God bless America, God damn America.
He is a wonderful man. My pastor, I think, represents the best of what the black church has to offer.
Not God bless America, God damn America.
I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community.
What's going on in white America, U.S. of KKKA?
Where white folks' greed runs a world in need, apartheid in one hemisphere, apathy in another hemisphere. That's the world.
That fundamental truth about the United States has been lost.
No, not God bless America, God damn America.
Fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
You really believe that, don't you? You know, you're really an enigma to me. You appear to be a moderately well-educated man. You've had the finest university teachings in the world, and having once been gifted with all that, how do you put it to use? For the common detriment of man, for the ultimate and positive disintegration of the society that made that learning possible for you.
What about my freedoms, my rights, my family's way of living? You don't concern yourselves with that, do you?
You want to change things. People kill each other, and they shouldn't. People are hungry, and they shouldn't be. People are cold, and they're illiterate. They need shelter. They need books. The world needs changing. Well, it does need changing, but if you're going to live with the rest of us, then you'll have to learn to play the game by the rules.
People don't want your warped and distorted sensibilities to interfere with their way of life.
What can I tell you?
Learn more about who we are and what we do by clicking the About Us tab at jjmccartney.com. The show will continue after these messages.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
Hey, we are back on the Friday edition. We call it the Friday Extravaganza with the mysterious Colonel alongside. Well, Colonel, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Apparently, thanks to WorldNet Daily for the story, by the way, the Muslim who shot a cop in Philadelphia 13 times was lying in wait. Can you believe that? I mean, what are they basing?
Absolutely.
What are they possibly basing that on?
I think that's another one of those fake news stories, JJ, that can't possibly, from the peace-loving religion of the world, that's absolutely, totally, 100% impossible.
I think the thing that made them think that is that, witnesses at the scene saw that, he had brought his goats with him and tied them up across the street. Yeah. No, here's the deal. An ISIS-inspired gunman who shot a Philadelphia police officer multiple times in the name of Islam in 2016 was lying in wait before the ambush attack on the unsuspecting cop who was merely sitting in his patrol car, prosecutors say. The attempted murder trial of shooter Edward Archer, 32, began yesterday. Archer accused of firing 13 shots at Officer Jesse James Hartnett, a 4-year veteran of the Philadelphia Police Department, on the evening of January 7th, 2016. Hartnett was shot multiple times in his left arm as he shielded his head from the rounds of Archer's stolen 9mm Glock. In court yesterday, Archer refused to enter a plea. He said, "I don't plead to anybody but Allah." Archer's attorney sought to remind jurors that Archer is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
That's right.
Yeah, got to remember that. The gunman reportedly gave a full confession in 2016, saying he did it in the name of Islam, according to CBS News. Sources also told Eyewitness News that Archer provided the confession in written form, and his police testimony was recorded on camera as well. He said, "I follow Allah. I pledge my allegiance to the Islamic State, and that's why I did what I did," Archer told detectives, according to Homicide Captain James Clark. Well, federal authorities said Archer made 2 trips to the Middle East in 2011. He went to Saudi Arabia on a pilgrimage to Mecca, and in 2012, he traveled to Egypt and was there for several months, no doubt being radicalized. A surveillance video of the shooting shows an attacker in a white Muslim garb as he runs up to Officer Hartnett's police cruiser and repeatedly fires at close range into the driver's side window. Surveillance footage captured in 2016 shows Edward Archer shooting at a Philadelphia police officer in his squad car. Now, this is absolutely one of the scariest things I've ever seen, said Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross. Said the guy tried to execute the police officer. The police officer had no idea he was coming. Bullets riddled the cruiser. A policeman who was shot at 13 times drove in downtown Philadelphia. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Colonel. How bad of a shot do you have to be? To be at point-blank range, you shoot 13 times, and you don't kill the guy. I mean, look, and I'm not saying that that's the desired outcome. I'm just saying, I mean, if this is how they're training ISIS fighters, then we need to find out where they're sending them, and we should pay for them to go there and get trained.
Exactly.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
That's probably one of those CIA undercover operations where they have a CIA agent training and firearms training these guys to not be able to. But yeah, as I recollect on this incident, I'm fairly certain, and I could be wrong, that even the police chief was a little reluctant to call this an act of terrorism from the outset. I could be wrong, though. Because I remember seeing it, and again, I remember seeing the video of the guy dressed in white running up to the police officer. And I guess what I'm trying to tell all your listeners and 99.9% of Americans. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, okay? And the other thing I'd like to know is, what was this guy's legitimate source of income? In other words, where was he employed? And if he wasn't employed, where the fudge do these people get the money to travel overseas?
Yeah.
I'm lucky if I can scrape up enough money to go visit the great city of New Orleans because I want to see the World War II Museum. Meanwhile, these folks are making 2 and 3 trips overseas to terrorist-known countries, terrorist, designated countries by the United States government, and nobody knows or cares, and this is what happens.
Well, if you want to go to New Orleans to see the World War II memorial thing there, you better hurry, because lately these political leaders in these cities like New Orleans have been kowtowing to the protesters who say, "Oh, you need to get rid of that statue of Robert E. Lee. You got to get rid of all this other crap." The thing is, the Civil War is history, and it's a integral part of America's history. And if somebody is offended by images of the Civil War, then they're snowflakes, and we need to ignore them. We cannot, if we bury our history because some of it might be ugly, then we bury the future of this country as well. Because the lessons of our history are it's an imperative that our young people learn the truth about why we fought that war. But
absolutely.
You're right. Where does a Muslim terrorist get the money to travel twice to the Middle East? And what was this guy's visible means of support during this whole thing?
I'm sure he wasn't living in the best part of Philadelphia. But again,
wait, hold it. There is no
very prejudicial.
There is no good. There is no best part of Philadelphia.
Well, be careful. We got the Super Bowl coming up, and all these Fly Eagles Fly fans will be. But you're right. I mean, come on.
If the Eagles go on to lose the Super Bowl to the Patriots, then first of all, a lot of people out there think the Eagles are going to kick the Patriots' butts. I don't follow football that closely, but I did watch part of the AFC game where the Patriots beat the Jaguars simply because I didn't have anything else to do. But but we won't see the Super Bowl because we don't get NBC because we don't have cable, of course. Yeah. But the Eagles, the community they represent is such a. It really is. I'm sure you've been through Philly many times, Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there are parts of Philly that you don't want to go.
Oh yeah.
Not only after dark, but during the day as well.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And even as a law enforcement officer, I got to tell you, it's still like the wild west, no doubt about it.
Yeah. But Philadelphia, if they lose the Super Bowl to the Patriots, then what are they going to say? They're still going to say "Fly, Eagle, fly."
Yeah, well, you know what they say about Tom Brady? Before every game, he always inflates his boop boop.
No, as I understand it, he actually
always a pleasure making you laugh.
He underinflates his.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So, you don't want him to trip, do you? Here's the thing.
But JJ, this brings up another point, and I'm so sick and tired of wherever I go, and I can't remember. I was just at a business the other day, and I'm sorry I can't remember. My ability to recall these days is dwindling fast, but that's for a number of reasons, not because I drink heavily. But I was at a place where I provided these days where I'm demanded, particularly at banks, my driver's license, and I purposely refuse and present my military ID and get a hard time all the time. I was at another location where I handed my ID. Oh, I know where it was. It was a CVS pharmacy where I was picking up a script for my daughters, one of my daughters, and the person said, "Oh, this requires a photo ID," and I gave him my military card, and he was like struggling. I'm telling you, for a couple of minutes, and he's like, "You have your driver's license?" And I got to tell you, I resent being asked for my driver's license because of the other side never being asked for the driver's license.
Right.
And if you ask for the driver's license, it's very... So I purposely refuse and detest that. As a law-abiding, upstanding, former military, former federal government, person, I detest that. And thankfully, one of the other persons that work behind the counter has a boyfriend that's in the military, and that individual came over right away and said, "Oh, no, it's okay, you can do it." But I absolutely detest when they demand a driver's license from us versus others. And little things like that really bother me these days.
You know how you can get out of that? They ask you for your driver's license. You look at them and say, "No hablo inglés."
I don't know how to say that, though.
Then they'll
if I knew
just
how to say that in Spanish, I would.
Then they'll just hand you stuff. Oh, you don't have to pay for it. Just take it.
I hate to be that way, but this is the world we're living in. It's absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Go to any hospital or medical facility at any point in time and seeing who's getting priority care. Meanwhile, you go in with a death injury, you're bleeding out, and the first thing they want is every form of identification, your insurance card, and on top of that, you got to fill out 10 minutes worth of paperwork in order to be seen by, someone. It's just, I'm not exaggerating. This stuff is absolutely out of control.
And I got to tell you, if the tables get turned in situations, we as native-born Americans, we are treated like public enemy number one. Everything we do, we're considered, heartless oppressors and racists and bigots and all these other things.
Yep.
A buddy of mine that I grew up with in Anchorage, Alaska, was in his late teens, walked into a McDonald's, and some group of Latinos were in the McDonald's, and they asked him for money.
Oh, wow.
They asked him for money.
Wow.
He didn't respond necessarily wisely when they asked him for money.
Mm-hmm.
He looked at them, and he said, "Me no speakity spick."
Ooh.
Oh, my goodness. We were lucky to get him out of there alive. I
was going to say, never want to do something like that by yourself.
No.
Or without a firearm.
Yeah, exactly. Or without your own tank,
Yeah.
But the thing is, something like that, they look at it and they immediately, take it from verbal to physical hostility.
Oh, of course.
We even saw this at the this protest march, this women's march that they held over the weekend, where if you didn't agree with them, they would actually get physically confrontational with you.
Oh, no doubt about it. Look, they said, "Who are you?" I saw some interviews that female Fox reporter was doing. I think it was the wife of a congressman, Sean Duffy, and she's pretty, with it woman. Anyway, she was interviewing in New York, and they're like, "Well, who are you with?" And I'm with Fox, and they're like, already vocalizing the explicatives and screw you, all that very disgusting verbal abuse.
Oh yeah.
And
yep.
It's just incredible. But that was a phony, false facade of anti-Trump. And they tried to mask it as, we're for women's rights. Give me a break already.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the vitriol these people use is it comes from a place that is so immature. This is kindergartners have more sense than this.
That's all they got.
It's all they have is belligerence and foul-mouthed language and no dignity nor respect for anybody.
Right. They have no tolerance for anybody.
While they preach tolerance. While they preach tolerance and claim we're being intolerant by simply having a problem. You know what my problem is? I have a problem with women, and they even do it to their children, putting these vagina hats on their 7-year-old daughter, wearing a vagina hat.
I know, right? That's a great example
that to me is an example of child abuse. It really is.
You know what? You know what, JJ? Why aren't they out there demonstrating against that knucklehead gymnastics coach that for years, abused all these young girls.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, not for nothing, how did these parents not say anything? I mean, this speaks volumes, and I'm not justifying what this guy did. I could care less about him. He'd probably be better off if they let him loose on Highway 405. I shouldn't say this, 405 in California, and tell him, okay, good luck, instead of putting him in jail where we're going to spend all kinds of money on him. I got to tell you though, where are the parents? How did anybody? I found out last night. This guy had unlimited access to these girls' rooms in the hotels. What is that? What is that? How can that go on for so many years?
And how do parents entrust their young daughters to a system like that, where obviously there's stuff going on, and the girls are afraid to say anything because they don't want to hurt their teammates and they don't want to cause.
Oh God!
But at some point in time, common sense would say
exactly.
There's something wrong with a full-grown adult male that wants to be able to sneak into the room of a 14-year-old girl or a 17-year-old girl or however old they are when they go to college nowadays. And
this is the kind of...
Go ahead, Colonel.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, this is the kind of stuff that these women groups need to be demonstrating against. Not any of this other nonsense and these false, whatever. It's just ridiculous.
It is.
Those are the things that really matter.
Yeah, and when we look at you look at how many different kinds of predators there are nowadays that are preying on young, ignorant, and desperate girls and guys, for that matter.
And naive. You
look at Harvey Weinstein. You look at all these other people in Hollywood that have been accused of these terrible molestations, and I guess one of those that is definitely in that group is Charlie Sheen. And but the whole culture there in Hollywood, for so long they said, well, we have to be permissive because this is cutting edge. This is cultural cutting edge stuff here. We're right on the very cusp of a new generation where people are not going to even think twice about sex. But
look at the show that Charlie Sheen has on TV. What is it called? Men, and all it is about him having sex with all these unbelievably. I'm not even going to qualify the women. That's all that show is about. So it's art imitates life. So that's the irony of it. It's like this must be his real life, on the screen.
And
I
the
don't
kid,
quite get it.
The actor that played the kid on 2.5 Men, I believe his name is Agnes T. Jones. He got out of the acting game right after his contract was up with the show. He got out, and he is now, he's a very much on fire, outspoken Christian, and he doesn't look a thing like he did on the show. But this is the thing. I mean, people like him could really. He needs to tell his story of what he saw and what he was exposed to when he was on that show. From the age I think of about 8 or 9 years old. The culture they've created is so harmful to kids and to, let's face it, to young innocents, wide-eyed, showing up in Hollywood thinking, oh, I'm going to have a chance to fulfill my destiny here. And instead, they become victims. Many of them become, in need of psychological and psychiatric care. Many of them are sexual assault victims. And many, many more are, exposed to all types of diseases and a lifestyle that it destroys your soul.
But right, and this is where parents need to, I don't claim to be the holiest or the most moralist. I don't at all.
Yep.
But the hypocrisy of this, you get these parents whose children, and I'm pretty sure there was one not too far from where I live in New York that was doing this for years, that was training for the Olympics. So I get that. These parents see these great things for their children, and that's wonderful. But they overlook the negative consequences, and maybe they don't think about any abuse, or maybe they don't talk to their kids, or I don't know. But to me, at the slightest hint of something, is it really worth putting your child through that?
No.
Because you see some sort of Are you kidding? And this is what I'm saying. It's like all these women that went to Hollywood that let that disgusting pig, Harvey Weinstein, and I can't believe that he looked like Brad Pitt at any time in his life. So he's always been a pig. And for this guy to force himself on women and do all these whatever acts in front of them, and for them to say, well, gee, it's more important that I get this role, and I have to, submit myself to this disgusting animal pig. But then years later, they come out and say, yeah, it was wrong and I did nothing about it. But yet they want to, badmouth Trump and us because we're immoral or whatever. Get out of here. Give me a break. At some point in time in your life, you got to make a choice. And if you don't make that choice, then guess what? It's like Jane Fonda. You sat on those anti-aircraft weapons. You badmouthed the United States. That's something you can never be forgiven for.
That's absolutely right.
Too bad, too late. You made the decision.
Hanoi
you were
Jane.
Sound mind and sound frame. You made it. Sorry. And you're lucky that you're living in this United States, and you're lucky that when you came back from enemy territory, you were able to make a living for the rest of your life.
And you want to know something else? She's lucky that she looks the way she looks, because had she not been this attractive, goddess, then nobody would have ever had any use for her at all. It was all because of her aesthetics that she was able to continue to work in Hollywood.
Barbarella.
Because Hollywood, Hollywood is, when it comes to one of their own, they'll forgive almost anything. They will. As long as you're on the left side of the spectrum, they'll forgive you for almost anything. All right, we got to take another quick break. The mysterious Colonel is with us. Phone lines are open, 855-853-5227. More to come in just a minute.
If you agree with JJ's conservative pillars for rescuing America's economy, stay tuned for more. If you are a liberal and think everything is okay, you can go pet your unicorn now.
This was not what I was expecting at all. I just thought someone was going to ask me my career plans, and that would be it.
Scared Straight, Liberal Arts Edition.
Now shut up and listen. I majored in the humanities. I racked up $200,000 worth of debt, majoring in studio art and film studies. What was I thinking?
My name is Laura. I'm a creative writing major. I wanted to write fairy tales, and now I live with my parents.
My name's Mateo, and my major was ceramics with a minor in electronic music. I can't even get a job at Pottery Barn.
You can't look someone in the eyes and say, I studied the tribal dance of the Hopi Indians.
Everybody put up the number 4 in the air. That's how many years you have to make it right. If you go to grad school, that's another 4 years.
Don't go to grad school!
Don't go to grad school!
You think that's funny? I racked up another $100,000 worth of debt in grad school. Wipe that smirk off your face! I'm gonna be paying off my student debt until I'm dead!
When you're the oldest person working at a coffee bean, you come find me and tell me you don't drink yourself to sleep.
What's your major? Music? You better learn how to make ringtones.
I'll hand you my phone, all right? Yeah. I want you to take it, I want you to put it up to your ear. And I want you to repeat after me. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Can I have $1,000 for rent this month?
Can I have $1,000 for rent this month?
Yeah, you're gonna be saying that every month until you decide to become a teacher at 32.
Do you have a Costco card?
Of course
I don't have a Costco card. There are membership fees for that.
We brought you here. We're yelling at you because nobody else will.
Don't let this happen to you.
I mean, I'm used to these kind of talks.
I'd rather hear it from angry people than from my parents.
You send a kid to the emergency room for a treatable illness like asthma. They end up taking up a hospital bed. It costs you gave them treatment early, and they got some treatment, a breathalyzer or an inhalator, not a breathalyzer. You know what? It would cost about the same as what we would spend over the course of 10 years. It would cost what it would cost us. All right, okay, we're going to. It would cost us about the same as it would cost for about, hold on one second, I can't hear myself. And they got some treatment, and you gave them treatment early. I haven't had much sleep in the last 48 hours, so.
The cure for the common show. JJMcCartney.com.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's like tiny nails in the air poke my lungs. I start to cough. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
Today, 1 out of 13 children suffer from some form of asthma, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all emergency room visits.
I feel like I'm choking. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. A little whistle sound comes out when I breathe.
But while your child may suffer from asthma doesn't have to make your child suffer. There are simple ways you can prevent your child's next attack. To learn more, log on to www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
You know, it's another problem I have with our system today, Colonel. There's all these fake commercials paid for by our tax dollars. We put a script in front of a little kid and say, now say this, I feel like a fish with no water. Why are we paying for that? Colonel. Oh, Colonel.
Yes. Good question.
I mean, first of all, it's so. First, these are just, for want of a better term, these are just stupid kids reading scripts. But it's like
they're not stupid kids. They're just like everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame and fortune, and some parent that's going to reap the benefit of whatever that child. You know how that goes, right? I mean, that's cool. You're going to be on radio.
It's like, but that kid has no idea what a fish with no water feels like.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. Who in the world knows? What do you think that fish is really thinking? Well, let's put it this way. Fish don't think. Fish do not think.
That's right.
They swim.
That's right.
They swim, they eat, and they reproduce. So basically, they're Democrats. I mean, that's it.
That's right.
But, as far as feeling, I feel like a fish with no water. How do you know? It's like...
Well...
I mean, I know.
They're just like somebody who says, it tastes like, you know what? How do you know? The only person that's ever done that is Frank Zappa. But other than that, nobody really knows, but they say it. So anyway.
The honest to goodness truth, though, we live now in a society that has been so thoroughly dumbed down that there are people out there that think that advertisements like that are effective. And there are people out there whose livelihood depends on maintaining this false belief that our government needs to be paying for crap like this. And, it's like, why does the government need to spend money advertising? I mean, are they competing with another government somewhere?
Well, it's probably those lobby groups that probably... whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's like everybody's going to die of asthma unless you pay for these ads. Yeah. And it's like, why do we even have an advertising council? Why do we have a public broadcasting service that is funded by the government?
Right.
It's a private sector enterprise. Commercial broadcasters, they are competing with one another on a daily basis, and it's a dog-eat-dog world. But the government, on the other hand, is funding these public television and radio stations, and the people that work for those stations get paid more than the people in the commercial stations. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
But back to the topic du jour. We were talking about Jane Fonda before we took our break. She is she's going to, whether she knows it or not, she is hideous on the inside. She really is. She's just a horrible human being. And, she claims to care about this and that, but what has she ever done for the poor? What has she ever done for the hungry? What has she ever done for the downtrodden besides running down our military and undermining our efforts in Vietnam, where 50,000 of our generation's brothers died? I mean, it just blows my mind. It really does. Well, Colonel, you hear the band in the background.
I do.
That means we need to take another break. We'll come back with Hour 2. You good for Hour 2 today?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Good for 3 hours, 4 hours.
We'll be back with more. It's the Mysterious Colonel and J.J. McCartney, the Friday Extravaganza. We'll be back next. Are these the first volleys in America's next civil war?
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and he's a bitch.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
And he can suck my
He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any day of the week and give him a Louisville Slugger.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Kiss my mother.
Which side of the aisle is really spewing hateful rhetoric?
Pointing what appears to be a water gun at the image of President Donald Trump projected on a whiteboard, art teacher Pale Modi has now been seen by countless viewers.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, The J.J. McCartney Show, exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state.
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage.
How much longer can America survive this kind of hatred?
Video depicting comedian Kathy Griffin holding the bloody, decapitated head of President Trump are no joking matter for the Secret Service.
The rhetoric that has inspired the violence has come from the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
They're involved in the coup, an active attempt to start a bloody civil war.
I want people to imagine an FBI director that has the stones to investigate the deep state. Imagine a justice system that has the integrity to prosecute corrupt government officials. They have refused to apply the 14th Amendment and give conservatives equal protection under the law. What we've seen here has been the gradual takeover of the government by corporatism, by globalism. They have wrested control of our government away from the citizenry and put it in the hands of a few special interests. And these special interests are as evil as the day is long.
We finally do have a president who has the integrity to do this. We finally do have a DOJ who has the integrity to do this. We know that we have people around the president who not only have the integrity, but have the information and the contacts to get everything done you just said. And you say, well, why aren't they doing it? Everything you're seeing on the news, that's what it's about. That's what this investigation's about. That's what calls of impeachment are about. That's what the globalist attack against Trump is about. That's what the hearings are about. That's what the allegations of Russian spying are about. It's about keeping them off point, keeping them off the agenda, keeping them off task. A lot of what you're watching happening right now, and the misdirection and the complete trying to keep Trump off target goes to that birth certificate. The worst crime in American history was perpetrated against America under the regime of Barack Obama. The media is complicit. Congress is complicit. Federal law enforcement apparently has been complicit. We've got a CIA whistleblower, Dennis Montgomery, whose attorney, Larry Klayman, put it all over the internet the other day that he has said that all of this spying that's been going on American people, that it resulted in manipulation and collusion with judges, Supreme Court justices, congressmen, etc., that James Comey was involved in it, that he was at the top of it. All of this stuff you're seeing about Donald Trump's with the Russians, Donald Trump needs to be impeached, Donald Trump, this is a smokescreen to keep our eyes off of what really happened and what's really going on. And America had better wake up to this, JJ.
Your federal government, your federal law enforcement agencies, our federal intelligence agencies, your federal government in toto has been compromised. The fact that Donald Trump has arrived and said, I'm not going to go along with the status quo anymore, is the cause for alarm for these people on the left. And ultimately, Carl, is it possible that yesterday was simply the first shot fired in an impending civil war between two irreconcilable ideologies?
I don't want our children and grandchildren to see or to participate or to fall victim to such a thing. I don't want our nation to go through such a thing. I don't know that we could survive that. Like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, when he said, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. I mean, God's people, we need to pray. We need to not be afraid to speak truth.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, The J.J. McCartney Show. Exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state.
Live from the Nightside Radio Studios.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Coming to you from Nebraska by way of Alaska. Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, welcome back to the J.J. McCartney Show as we enter hour number 2 of the Friday extravaganza with the mysterious Colonel. Always great to have the Colonel with us. And you too, by the way. We're very glad you're with us. Phone lines are open, toll-free, 855-853-5227. Hour number 2 of the Friday extravaganza, the last broadcast hour of the week. Coming up next. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Mysterious Colonel. It is good to have you with us.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And, there's so much we haven't gotten to yet. Donald Trump is, he's such a terrible president. For example, let me give you an example of how bad things are. Federal Express, FedEx, announced wage increases, employee bonuses, and pension funding today, citing the new Republican-backed tax reform plan. The company announced that 2/3 of $200 million in increased compensation will go to hourly employees, while the remainder will be put toward performance-based incentive plans for salaried employees. FedEx also said that $1.5 billion will be put toward the company pension plan, and another $1.5 billion would go toward expanding the company's hub in Indianapolis. Now, this is the kind of thing that happens when you get some crackpot in the White House who thinks that the people should be able to keep more of their own money.
That's crumbs. Come on. That's an outrage. That's nothing but crumbs. How dare they? How dare you?
Yeah. Well, FedEx believes the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will likely increase gross domestic product and investment in the United States, the company said on its website. President Trump signed the GOP-backed tax plan, which decreases the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% in December. FedEx is the latest company to announce benefits as a result of tax reform. Home Depot said yesterday that it would be giving a $1,000 bonus to employees who had worked at Home Depot at least 20 years, according to CNBC. Starbucks announced new raises for its employees on Wednesday, while J.P. Morgan Chase and Disney said on Tuesday they would give employee raises and bonuses as a result of tax reform. Trump cited the gains in a tweet promoting the plan earlier this week. So, he has done.
That's an outrage. That is an outrage. How dare they?
This is all the stuff that people on the left and the right were saying he would never be able to do.
Yep.
And it's like, Trump is a get-it-done kind of guy. He just is. And if you can't get the job done, then he'll find somebody who can.
Exactly.
It's really not complicated. Now, let's contrast this with what Barack Obama did for this country for 8 years. Okay, ready? Here's the list.
Yeah.
That's it.
Crickets. Hey, yeah, JJ, speaking of that, can you believe there are a fair number of lefties who are saying that this economic boom has nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with the tax incentives. It has all to do with the policies that Barack Obama put in place.
No.
And they expect Americans to believe that. I tell you, this is what I mean. They must all be smoking that recreational marijuana if they truly believe all this stuff. It's amazing, and it still continues.
Well, here's another story that contrasts what you have in Donald Trump with what you had in Barack Obama. But some people just didn't know it. We knew it. We knew what he was all along. But this from the Daily Caller. Bombshell photo emerges of Obama smiling with black nationalist
Louis Farrakhan.
That's right, Calypso Louis, the leader of the Nation of Islam, the biggest black hate group in the country. This photo, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera here so people can see it, or you can just Google it if you like. Here's the photo. Barack Obama standing right next to Calypso Louis. That's Calypso Louis to the far right. And, boy, he's got the biggest grin on his face. Yeah. Barack Obama, he's in his element. He's surrounded by fellow Muslims, radicals, just completely. Well, here's the thing that is bothersome about this. A new photo has emerged, but the photo is from 2005. How did that happen, you say? Well, it happened because a journalist by the name of Askia Muhammad, he said he took the photo but decided to suppress its publication in order to protect Obama's presidential ambitions. Now that Obama's political career is over, Muhammad is going public with the photo in a new book called The Autobiography of Charles 67X. Now, the photo was first published last week by the Trice Edney Newswire, a provocative, empowering, unapologetically black wire news service that interviewed Muhammad. The veteran journalist told the news service that he gave the picture up at the time and basically swore secrecy to protect Obama. But after the nomination was secured and all the way up until the inauguration, and then for 8 years as president, he said he was keeping it undercover, referencing keeping the photo under wraps to protect Obama's career. It absolutely would have made a difference, he said. So this is the kind of ethos you have on the left wing, and especially Islam. Obama's ties to Farrakhan became an issue during the 2008 campaign after Hillary Clinton slammed Obama for being slow to discuss the hate group leader's endorsement, that is, Farrakhan. He said, this is Obama saying, I obviously can't censor him, but it is not support that I sought, Obama said at the time. He said, and we're not doing anything, I assure you, formally or informally with Minister Farrakhan. He said, I can't say to somebody that he can't say that he thinks I'm a good guy. Pushed by Clinton, Obama finally denounced Farrakhan, saying that if the word reject, Senator Clinton feels is stronger than the word denounce, then I'm happy to concede the point and I would reject and denounce. Except for the fact that he never really did. I mean, Farrakhan, I think, had some problems with Obama after he was president. And most likely because Obama wouldn't take his calls. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But Obama's ties to the radical world of the Nation of Islam, as well as the Council on American Islamic Relations, as well as Hezbollah, Hamas, and let's face it, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Barack Obama is tied to those groups inexorably. He really is. If you follow a timeline of how ISIS was formed, how it grew into a military power in that region, and how it was funded and how it was armed. It all comes back to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Susan Rice, and let's face it, the Clintons.
Yep.
The Clintons were all ready to subdivide Libya and turn it into a resort that would have been the most corrupt in the world, and no doubt Clinton's cronies would have been paid off by being allowed to build, fancy hotels and casinos and God knows what else. Instead, what happened? The whole area was thrown into civil war. And Benghazi, we all know what Benghazi was about. It was about gun running. It was about an illegal gun running operation that the Obama administration was running.
Like Iran-Contra.
Exactly. Yep. Except these were the people, they were funneling money and arms to the people that were killing Americans and Christians in the region. Mm-hmm. This is, without a doubt, the most scandalous and treasonous thing that any American president has ever done or ever will do.
I don't know, JJ. That kind of rivals what's going to hopefully come out here shortly about these American intelligence agencies and maybe even the FBI spying on Americans illegally. Mm-hmm. That may be bigger than this.
Well, but that spying doesn't rise to the level of putting guns in the hands of people that want to kill us.
I guess, right.
But it certainly is aiding and abetting people that are involved in that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much that he got away with in 8 years of administration. And even to this day, it's all about Trump and Russia collusion, which is absolutely nothing. But
we could show
nothing about the big O.
If we were to uncover a videotape of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton putting together the scheme to destroy Muammar Gaddafi and take over Libya, and basically if we had video evidence, irrefutable video evidence of them having that conversation and saying, well, the only way we can do this is if we arm and fund ISIS. And if we had all of that on tape and irrefutable evidence, you know what would come out of it? Oh, you guys are being racists. You're all a bunch of racists. You're going after Obama because he's black. No, I'm going after Obama because he's an evil SOB. Or
you're just trying to deflect from Trump because the noose is tightening on him, and Mueller's going to arrest him any day. So you're just deflecting it like they're talking about it now. That's what they would say.
There's a lot of people out there that are crapping in their BVDs because President Trump has agreed that he's going to testify under oath.
Right.
And Rush Limbaugh yesterday was peeing his pants about this, saying, "Oh, it's a big setup. It's a setup. It's a perjury trap." Honestly, I think Donald Trump doesn't have anything to hide, so why would he be afraid of taking an oath?
No, I agree, but at the same time, I know how these guys operate, and I'm sure they want to trap him into some sort of misstatement, whether or not it's connected to Russian collusion or, what's your waist size. I mean, that's how they operate, and they're so desperate to come up with something that's disgusting.
Yeah, I had a guy call
really, it's disgusting.
I had a guy call the other day saying, "Do you really believe that Donald Trump weighs 239 pounds? Do you really believe that?"
Oh, God.
I'm like, first of all, I do believe it. Secondly, what in the world does it matter? Why does it matter to anybody?
I got to tell you, JJ, if he gets his stamina and energy level from eating 12 McDonald's Big Macs or whatever they are a day, then I got to tell you, instead of buying Super Beets, I'm going to McDonald's and I'm going to eat the same, because I got to tell you, I'm about 12 or so years younger than him, and I don't have that kind of energy level.
Do you recall any of these type of issues?
No, not
ever being.
Barack was
No, I'm not talking about Barack. I'm saying, do you recall anybody mentioning this when Chris Christie was the governor of New Jersey?
Oh, right.
Do you remember anybody saying, "Oh boy, I tell you what, he can't lead because he's overweight. He can't do this. He can't do that." Well, Chris Christie is just, he's a goof. He really is. I tell you what, let's go to the phones. We have with us now, via the magic of telecommunications, Charlotte in South Carolina. Hi, Charlotte.
Hey, JJ, Echo.
Hey, Charlotte, how are you? Happy Friday.
Oh, same to you. Listen, I know that the congressman can only see that memo if they go down in the basement of the Capitol and read it and so forth, and they keep talking about releasing it. Why don't one or two of them go to the floor of the House and tell what they remember from what they read? They can do that. It's constitutional. It's legal. And get the word out what's in there. Because they should have done it before they took a vote on a new FISA rule, a new FISA bill.
What do you think, Colonel?
Well, I tell you what, I agree with Charlotte. I just hope that it's not one of these inflated balloons that is not quite what they're saying it is. It needs to come out. There's a fair number of people that are saying it's going to come out within a week or so. We shall see.
Well, they say about 200 Republicans have read it.
You know what this
and
reminds...
every one of them comes out are talking about how bad it is.
You know what this
now,
reminds me of, though?
You can understand it with one or two, but all of them,
Charlotte,
all of them are saying how bad it is.
Yeah, Charlotte, you know what this reminds me of? You know what this reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of the Joe Arpaio investigation. There was all of this talk, and it's like, it's good. You know, there's a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire, and nothing ever came from it.
Nothing ever came out. Remember, he kept saying that and building it up, and I'm going to release this, and nothing ever came out.
But you know, if there's anything to it, it could blow the top off of this investigation that Mueller's doing. It could stop the investigation Mueller's doing.
Well, that's why I say I hope the Republicans that are putting it out there really mean what they say, and they're not just blowing smoke, because
I just don't see why some of them, one or two of them together, could go on the floor and tell. They can't read it up there, but they can tell what they remember from reading it themselves.
Well, I think
if they get it on the floor,
the chicken, you know what to do that, because it's going to ruin. It's not the best procedure to follow. So, but I hope it does get out. We need to know. The American people need to know one way or the other, and put it to rest.
No.
You know,
Dianne Feinstein had a cold and spilled the beans on one thing. Blame it on having a cold.
I got to tell you, since you brought it up, from a common sense perspective, whether you believe these emails from this FBI agent or not, the fact that he was involved in the investigation. Okay, everybody says everybody in the federal government, FBI agent, whatever, they're allowed to have their own opinions. That's all well and good. But when you have opinions like that you're communicating, and you are involved in the investigation, hello, from a common sense perspective, does anybody see what's wrong with that? Hello, people. It doesn't take a rocket
scientist. Well, now listen, Mueller was over the FBI for a long time. He knew these people, and he probably knew their political leanings. So he knew what was going on.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the funny thing is, not that it's funny, but the fact of the matter is, well over a year we have nothing, not even in the slightest bit, to indicate on Trump's campaign committee that there was any collusion, yet everything points to all the collusion on Hillary Clinton, the dossier, the FBI, Bruce Orr, his wife that worked for Fusion GPS. Are you kidding me? If you paid me, I don't know what the guy got paid, Christopher Steele, $50 million, whatever. If you paid me that money, I would come up with a dossier against Charlotte. And I love you, Charlotte.
Well, the more they dig, the more it points to the Democrats. And I don't know why in the world they haven't fired those people from the FBI.
I don't either. And I'll
they need to be taken out in cuffs.
At the end of the day,
as long as they stay there, they can destroy evidence.
You're right. At the end of the day, Mueller's investigation better also include all that Russian collusion on the Democrat side, the dossier, everything, from Bruce Orr, his wife, Fusion GPS. That better be included as well, because that's all part of it, and that's more egregious than anything Trump is being accused of. It's ridiculous.
They can't investigate because Mueller and Rosenstein are just as involved as the others are.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Telling you, these are people who really thought they were going to save the world from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They really believed it. There's no doubt. No doubt.
Well, it's one thing having an opinion working there. It's another thing to try to set an election.
Yep.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
So I just wish some of them would come out on the floor and tell what they remember from it, and let it get out in the open.
It's really difficult to justify
what they say on the floor is protected.
I understand that, but what frustrates me is why this type of thing is being prevented from seeing the broad light of day, and the only reason I can come up with is because the people that did it knew how wrong it was when they were doing it, but they were willing to rationalize that it was necessary because of their own irrational fears about Donald Trump. And most importantly, let's not pretend that this was out of any genuine concern for the United States. This was all about them holding on to power. That was all it was ever about. It was never about, we got to protect this country from this terribly dangerous man.
No, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
They don't mind going on TV and talking about it. They won't go on the floor and tell about it.
Right.
And that's what gets me. Every day there's when I'm on TV telling how bad it is. So
that's the
get a little bit of courage to act like a patriot and go on the floor and read it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Oh, gosh. I mean, it's a mess. It's a real mess. And, the bottom line is that all of this damage that has been done to the trust between the American people and the government, all of this damage was done by not only Democrats but Republicans that were trying to obstruct Donald Trump's path.
Absolutely.
And again, all it really had to do with is they didn't want this outsider coming along and mucking up the good thing that they had made for themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, they're dragging this out on TV every day, and the whole world is watching.
Yep.
They need to put an end to it.
And whether you like the guy or not, Bill O'Reilly was on top of this stuff every day when he was on Fox.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I like him.
He
was.
I didn't really like Bill O'Reilly. I find him a little bit hard to take. But when it came to the chicanery that the left was up to, he was one of the most effective voices that there was, and I believe that's why he was railroaded out.
Exactly.
I want to say I like him. I like his show because he seemed to be always on top of everything.
I agree with you, JJ. You're absolutely right. They had to take him out, and they did it in the best way possible with this. And he was never able to tell his side of the story with this sexual abuse or sexual harassment or whatever it was. You're right. They had to take him out, just like they're doing with all the Fox reporters.
Yep.
Sean Hannity. I got to tell you, I really love Laura Ingraham. Sean Hannity is a very emotional guy. I know you don't watch Fox, but Sean Hannity is very emotional and he gets excited and he misquotes things. But I got to tell you, Laura Ingraham is the voice of reason. I think she's very rational, and when she looks at things the same way, I lend a lot of credence to what she has to say about all this. And you're right. Charlotte's right. We are so lucky right now that the economy is doing so well and this country isn't collapsing, despite all this nonsense. These Democrats are absolutely out of control. The left, I cannot believe they hate. Listen, I did not like Barack Obama's policies whatsoever. I never hated him enough to wish him dead every day, like Rosie O'Donnell wakes up in the morning and she hustles to the obituaries in hopes that she's going to see Donald Trump's name. This woman is out of control. But there's so many people on the left that just wish and hope and pray. I mean, look at the press conference they had when his medical report came out. I could not believe they were asking everything possible in hopes that there was something that was going to either, lead to his demise or cause some sort of mental or physical ailment that he wasn't going to get able to continue. I've never seen violent hatred against a person, except Jesus Christ, maybe, in this world since I've been on this earth. I cannot believe it, that they hate him so much that they'll stoop and stop at nothing to absolutely destroy his administration and his presidency. It's really scary.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's scary to think that in this modern day and time, this kind of political character assassination and this type of suppression of free speech in a very subtle way. And keep in mind, all of this really started to be a problem when Roger Ailes was forced out at Fox. That's when it started to become a problem, because when Roger Ailes was forced out at Fox, and then the network was basically placed in the hands of the two Bobbsey twins from the Murdoch family, their political goals and their political agenda was diametrically opposed to everything that Roger Ailes had built up. And, don't get me wrong, I'm glad people like Megyn Kelly are gone. We're thrilled that she's gone.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But, and by the way, her career is permanently toast. I really believe that.
Yeah, well, she got too big for her britches and thought, I'm the greatest or whatever, I'm going to move on, and she's the biggest flop, and I have no use for her whatsoever.
Absolutely. Agree completely. And, the agenda and the manner with which people are, they don't even try and hide what they're up to anymore. This is a brazen type of game that they're playing, and they actually believe that the damage that was done by Barack Obama to this country, which they don't think of it as damage, but they actually believed that Barack Obama's illegal executive orders would last forever. Because they didn't think that Trump or anybody else would have the chutzpah to go in there and just start slashing the crap out of stuff. And
that's why he did it.
I'm so thankful that he did. And, where would America be today without Donald Trump?
Yeah. Well, that's why Barack Obama did it. That's why he did it, and he circumvented the legal process.
Hey, Charlotte.
Like you said, that nobody...
What kind of dog do you have there, Charlotte?
I've got a Maltese. He's a barker. That's the one my doctor asked me if I'd take. The man that had him left him alone all the time. And we're still getting trained. He's a good dog. He's a loving dog.
Does he
JJ, them pushing Eric Bolling out and making up all those stories about him could be the reason that his son committed suicide.
Wow. I can't imagine what he's going through personally, but I always liked Eric Bolling. Thought he was a good guy.
I did too, and I don't believe a word of that.
Yeah, what's going on with that? They accused him of sexual harassment too, right?
Yes, and immediately after that, his son committed suicide.
Wow.
Jeez.
And I just, that probably had a lot to do with it.
Oh, my God.
It's
he
tragic.
worshipped that son.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Yes, it is. So,
well,
have a nice weekend, both of you.
Well, thank you, Charlotte.
Too, Charlotte.
God bless you, my dear.
Bless you.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
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 All right. Well, Colonel, we have a chance to take a quick break here. I think we'll take it, and we will come back with more with the mysterious Colonel. And our phone lines are open if you'd like to chime in with your 2 cents worth. We'd certainly love to hear from you as well. Toll free 855-853-5227. More with the mysterious Colonel coming up.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney back here for our good friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Folks, there's one thing that there never seems to be a shortage of in this world, and that is uncertainty, unrest. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Natural disasters, economic downturns, whatever it is, You can be prepared by going to mountainviewoffgridliving.com. They have got everything you need, from ProPure gravity-fed water filtration systems to Kimberly stoves to these composting toilets. Ladies and gentlemen, at mountainviewoffgridliving.com, you can prepare for anything. Food storage, no problem. Advice, no problem. Call our good friend Sue at mountainviewoffgridliving.com. Find out what's there for you. Great prices, great advice, and guess what, folks? You'll find it all at mountainviewoffgridliving.com.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
It's no secret, whatever it takes to advance a very different vision for America.
I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud.
She wiped the server clean. Personal emails are my personal business.
I saw it as a matter of convenience, and it was allowed. Others had done it. The server will remain private.
These two federal judges both saying the same things about her. There's too much deception here. Mrs. Clinton, when you speak to me, you will certify under penalty of perjury that you're telling the truth.
Going through the emails, there were over 60,000 in total. About half were work-related and went to the State Department, and about half were personal.
When you speak to the public, you say, I turned over everything. For the most part, a direct quote. When you talk to the public, you say, I turned over everything.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes. That's for the people investigating it to try to figure out. But we turned over everything that was work-related, every single thing.
90 to 95% of my work-related emails were in the state system.
Who told you that 90 to 95% of your emails were in the State Department system? Who told you that?
We learned that from the State Department.
The Inspector General report found that less than 1% of State Department emails, record emails, were captured. So they give a number of less than 1%, and you give a number of 90%.
I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department.
If is means is and never has been, that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement.
When people push boundaries too far, it's not because they're strong.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles.
Her arrival in Bosnia was not quite as dramatic as Clinton put it.
Good to see you.
Once again, her memory doesn't match our videotape.
Your opponents are saying that that's really part of a larger pattern with you, that you often avoid taking firm positions on controversial issues.
They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
Fact checkers have said that she was wrong.
You, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that, like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience. I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive. I represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out. Quit foreclosing on homes. Quit engaging in these kinds of speculative behaviors. Now, who's exactly to blame for the housing crisis? And I think there's plenty of blame to go around.
You say anything to get elected.
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life.
Do you think there's something you can do to get a majority of Americans to believe you're trustworthy?
All right, we are back on the J.J. McCartney Show. And, Colonel, the reason I played that soundbite, are you sitting down? The reason I played that.
I am sitting down in the front-leaning arrest position.
The headline of this story, written by Chelsea Schilling at WorldNet Daily, reads, "Was it just sex? Fallout from Clinton's lie heard round the world." And, of course, we all know the phrase, "I want you to listen to me. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Yep.
I never told a single person to lie, not a single time, never." It's amazing. It really is, as we go back and we look at that. This guy was pathological liar.
Yeah.
I mean, a pathological liar to the degree that he didn't even really think that he was lying anymore. The key to a pathological liar is they convince some part of their own brain that what they're saying is true, even though they know it's not. And the danger that put America in cannot be overstated on so many levels. First of all, you got a guy that lies like Bill Clinton, a guy that, cats around the way that Clinton did. What you have there is ammunition for blackmailers. You have, which is a direct threat to the national security. And there's so much more to this story. Those infamous words spoken by the most powerful man in the world, directly from the White House 20 years ago today. In 1998, America had many reasons to believe President Bill Clinton was lying right through his teeth about his sexual affair with White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Clinton was being sued for sexual harassment by Paula Jones. Okay, that we know. Also about that time, the Juanita Broderick story was also catching on. The Jennifer Flowers story was, it was part of the written record. Jennifer Flowers, absolutely, there was a long-term affair with Jennifer Flowers. And Clinton denied having an affair with Jennifer Flowers, even though it was common knowledge. Now, a segment of 60 Minutes. Flowers produced tape recordings of phone calls she had with Clinton, and in 1998, Clinton admitted under oath that the two had had a sexual encounter. So rumors had been circulating for 7 years that Clinton had raped a woman in 1978 by the name of Juanita Broderick, a nursing home administrator in Arkansas. In March of 1998, former White House aide Kathleen Willey claimed Clinton sexually assaulted her in the Oval Office in 1993. It was later revealed Lewinsky co-worker Linda Tripp had been secretly recording phone calls during which Lewinsky discussed her sexual affair with Clinton. Tripp learned that Clinton had been giving gifts to Lewinsky and that the young intern had kept a blue dress containing the president's DNA. Still, on January 17th, 1998, during his Paula Jones deposition, Clinton had been asked under oath, "Did you have a extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky?" He answered no, after being sworn in, later stating, "I have never had sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky. I've never had an affair with her." Ladies and gentlemen, that is blatant perjury. The president said he didn't recall ever being alone with Lewinsky. He later claimed his statements were legally accurate and waffled on the meaning of is. But he also told America, it's nobody's business but ours. I beg to differ.
Yeah.
A 20-year-old intern, a 20-year-old intern. Do you recall the Clarence Thomas hearings?
Oh, I do.
There was a female.
And you know what?
Yep. There was a female judge, and her name was Susan Hirschner. Do you remember her?
I don't remember her specifically, but yeah.
She was a homely woman. She was called to testify. Her experiences with sexual harassment cases, and what made the Democrats' argument was when she sat there and said, well, when it came to the relationship between Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill, there was an inequity of power. An inequity of power. Do you remember that phrase?
Inequity of power. Yeah.
So tell me something. Was there an inequity of power between Bill Clinton, the president of the United States of America, and a 19-year-old White House intern?
Yeah, probably not, JJ. Nah, probably not. Yeah, right. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
yeah. Well, a CNN USA Today Gallup poll taken 20 years ago, from January 25 to 26 of 1998, revealed 61% of Americans believed Clinton had an affair. A full 56% said they believed Clinton lied under oath. And 48% said they thought he tried to obstruct justice. Only 44% of America.
40, you're right.
Only 44% of America was satisfied with his denials. In spite of the Lewinsky bombshell revelations, Clinton approval ratings were above 60%.
There you go.
And they continued to soar through the end of his presidency. How does that happen, Mysterious Colonel?
How does that happen? Exactly.
Yeah. I'll tell you how it happens.
And that was just...
I'll tell you how it happens. It happens the same way that Barack Obama's approval ratings and all the other the oversampling of liberal Democrats and the undersampling of conservatives. That's all it was.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
yep.
What exactly was happening in America at that time? Its president lied under oath about a sexual affair with a 19-year-old intern, had been accused of committing serious crimes such as perjury, persuading Lewinsky to commit perjury, and obstructing justice to hide his misdeeds. Why was his approval so high? And was it all just about sex, as Clinton's defenders and Democrats in Congress claimed? Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton had a sexual relationship. Bill Clinton equivocated over the word is. It was about the rule of law, says James Rogan, Republican of California, key player in Clinton's impeachment, who was selected by the House to prosecute Clinton in the Senate. He said Clinton was a defendant in a federal civil rights action. He had been ordered by a trial judge to answer questions under oath, and he purposefully committed perjury, subordination of perjury, excuse me, and then obstruction of justice in an effort to win the suit that was filed against him and, of course, to avoid any collateral political damage. Well, Rogan was a judge of the Superior Court of California and a former gang murder prosecutor with the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, was one of the select House managers who prosecuted Clinton. From his very first day on the House Judiciary Committee, Rogan took meticulous notes during every meeting related to Clinton's impeachment. He published his detailed impeachment notes in his memoir called Catching Our Flag, Behind the Scenes of a Presidential Impeachment. Well, this is something a lot of American youngsters don't know anything about. They don't know that Bill Clinton was impeached.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the accusations flying around about Donald Trump and how salacious they are compared to what we knew about Bill Clinton.
Right. Exactly.
Was this all about sex? No, it was not. This was about political stability. It was about the rule of law, and it was about people on the left and the right trying to sweep it under the carpet and protect the status quo. The same thing they've been trying to do for the last 14 months.
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, the players are different. The circumstances are different. But at the end of the day, the people that were defending Bill Clinton in 1998 are the same people that, regardless of what the evidence tells you, you hear that phrase, well, let's just follow wherever the evidence leads. There is no evidence of collusion with Russia by Donald Trump. None.
Right.
There's no evidence whatsoever. How in the world does this thing keep on perpetuating itself in the media? Well,
yeah, it is amazing.
It's the media. And what I'm looking at here is a constitutional crisis in the making. But it's not because of anything Donald Trump did. This constitutional crisis is a whole bunch of people in the Senate and the House that are trying to protect themselves from their own misdeeds getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many skeletons are in the closet in Washington, D.C.?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I mean, it is, folks, you can take just about any long-term senator or congressman in Washington, and you will find that they have a closet full of skeletons because the environment in Washington, the swamp in Washington, is designed to take well-intentioned people and corrupt them. And that's exactly what's happened. And so now what we have is we have a very small handful of people in Washington that have integrity. People like Trey Gowdy, people like, well, I'm trying to think of another one in the House and the Senate. I would say,
yeah,
I would have to say that. What's the name of the Steve Scalise is another.
Oh, Scalise, yep.
And there are a handful of others that have some integrity, but they are fighting against a current right now in Washington that is literally trying to, by whatever means they think is necessary, trying to push Donald Trump out of the way. Even while his first year, he accomplished more than any president I can recall.
Yep.
And not just by a little.
Years, yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep. 8 years, we didn't even come close to where we are now in a year for a number of things under 8 years of that previous you-know-who. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So where does that leave us today? What can be done?
Well, I hope this plays out. The good thing is, I really think that Trump's got the stamina, the chutzpah, whatever you want to call it, to fight these people until the end. Let's hope this Mueller investigation is over soon. I hope that memo gets released. We need to turn the tide against the real corrupt forces here, which is the Democratic Party, the Clintons, the liberals, a few top FBI agents. There's no doubt in my mind, and I'm sorry to say, but that top-notch law enforcement agency has been tainted by a few who thought they were saving the world. Comey and his staff there with McCabe, Strzok, and Lisa Page. They need to be dealt with, and we need to get beyond this and move on and start moving this country forward to make even more progress than we have in the last year.
You know what I think was happening? What I really believe was happening? I believe that James Comey, by doing the things that he had done, believed that he was setting himself up to be the next Attorney General. I really think that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to He was trying to ingratiate himself with Hillary, even though in public it might not have looked that way. But what he was trying to do was politically protect Hillary. And at the same time, he had to hedge some of his bets because of the things that he knew Hillary was guilty of. Mm-hmm. But the idea that Jim Comey did what he did, and by the way, one of the things he did was ignore mountains of evidence against people within the FBI that were leaking information and were trying their damnedest to undo an election.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And if you as the head of the FBI are content to allow people like this Peter Strzok to to be the partisan hack that he was, and to essentially pull every punch when it came to Hillary and the investigation of the emails, but then when it came to Donald Trump, it's like, well, let's go get this. We'll get this phony dossier, and on the basis of the phony dossier, we'll get the FISA warrants, and we'll tap everybody's phones at the Trump Towers. We'll listen to every conversation. Right. And ladies and gentlemen, politically speaking, the scandals don't get any bigger than this. When you're talking about a presidential election.
Right. Think about it. The public acceptance of what he did with Hillary Clinton far outweighed the public acceptance. They knew the public was going to accept anything he did against Trump, because Trump is a nobody. He's not a big name. He's a businessman. He's nothing. And so for whatever they were going to do to derail the Trump candidacy, he felt not a big deal. But, boy, we got to treat Hillary with kid gloves, because if I bring down the only Democratic candidate, oh, my God, there's going to be hell to pay. And, it's going to be my demise either way, whether or not she got elected and he would be seen as a hero. Because, remember, they said, Loretta Lynch, you're going to be sticking around. We're going to keep you, whatever. It's from a common sense perspective, it's pretty obvious what was going on here. And there's no doubt about it. When you're that high and you're a political appointee like Comey was, this was the choice he made. The public would be very accepting of whatever they used against Trump, and it backfired when Trump got elected. And now it's the cover-up, JJ. They're doing all this stuff, the fake, the phony, the Mueller investigation. It's all to try to cover up the corruption and what they've done. And that's why they're trying their damnedest to cover all that up, because it backfired on them. It didn't go the way they thought it was going to go. Because remember, like I said, everything against Trump would have been accepted. Nobody would have found out that we would have spied on Trump and Trump Towers, and nobody would have cared as long as Hillary was elected. Yep. It backfired. And now it's all coming out.
And you think that those people at the Hillary victory party were crying and had those terrified looks on the looks on their faces was nothing, I bet, compared to the look on Jim Comey's face.
Yeah, well, let's hope Jim Comey gets in a little bit of trouble for perjury himself.
Yes. I get the words that flew through my head when I thought about Jim Comey on election night.
Yeah.
Were holy fook and bang ding ow. Yeah. Seriously.
Right, baby. Right.
Mysterious Colonel with us on Fridays, and it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
TGIF.
Always a pleasure. God bless you.
Have a great weekend. See you next week. Thanks.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
All right, my friends, that's going to do it for the Friday edition, the extravaganza. 3 to 5 p.m. weekdays. You can hear us live at redstatetalkradio.com and jjmccartney.com. Watch the live streaming video at jjmccartney.com. But you know what, folks? The most important thing is just come back each day and then share the program with your friends. Because as far as I know, there's not another program like this one anywhere. And you know what? I'm proud of the work we've done. I really am. And I hope that you will help us grow. Because we're going to fight every day to protect the truth, to refute the lies, and to assure the rule of law and the Constitution are protected for not just us, but future generations as well. All right, my friends, It's going to do it for the Friday edition. Be good to yourselves, and if you possibly can, be good to someone else. And remember, we'll win in the end because there are more of us than there are of them, because God is with us, and because we are all in this thing together. Have a great rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend. Drive safely. See you on Monday. Bye-bye.